Pittsburgh Steelers fans, welcome to this week's episode of Steelers Touch Down Under. I'm Matty Peverell, joined as always by my co-host Marky D, Marky Davison. How you going, mate?
Mate, I'm a bit fired up.
You fired up? Why are you fired up?
Because apparently the Bengals have already won the game in week 1. Did you hear about that
preseason had started?
Everything I'm talking about with Steelers versus Bengals and everything I go into on Facebook land, Twitter, all those things, right? The Bengals fans think they've already won 1-0. And I reckon this is going to be Bills 2.0 and we're going to win. Just saying.
100%. Yeah, well, it's like I think Jeff said it, before the Bills last year. I think he said it recently on one of the Let's Rides or what have you. Around the Steelers have got like months to game plan for this, right? I mean, think about that. It's not like there are teams in this league that have had Foles as their starting quarterback and Blake Bortles. And we've got like Mitch Trubisky that's led a team to the playoffs, had like 50 starts. You've got Kenny Pickett who, did quite a bit at college, and we're hoping that most of us are hoping he's not starting. Like, I have no issues with believing the Steelers can win this game. And also, they're pros and they're competitors. Like, if you think you've lost the game this far out from the season, what is it, like 4 months or whatever it is, then you shouldn't be playing professional football. Days.
No, I'm just saying there's a lot of fans I've had interactions with on the Twitter and this Facebook land and stuff like that and YouTube, and they just can't believe that we have a chance that we will win. The Bengals already think that they've won this game. And I'm like, do you remember Bills 2.0 or last year and we beat the Bills? It's the exact same scenario, and I can't wait. I cannot wait for week 1. Just saying.
That's it. That's it. And so the big news, I think, really of the week so far, we'd be remiss not to cover it. Obviously, in the last 24 hours, Omar Khan has been appointed as the Steelers general manager. Someone they've promoted from within, someone I've been keen on. I think the knock on him at times is, does he have the player development side? He's more of the numbers guy. Although, I mean, look at what LA did. They kind of said, stuff them picks, and they won the Super Bowl and they managed their money, right? So, like, I hope they don't take that approach, and I don't think they will, judging by Omar Khan's early comments, about how the Steelers will approach things like contracts and player personnel and building through the draft. It also sees Brandon Hunt leave the Steelers, and apparently he'll be signing with the Eagles as part of one of their sort of assistant GM or pro scouting roles. We've had Andy Weidel brought in from the Eagles, assistant general manager. Sheldon White, director of pro scouting. He's the dad of Cody White, the wide receiver.
Yeah,
so maybe White, who we reviewed last week's not staying. And then Dan Colbert's been promoted to director of college scouting. So I think we'll still see players drafted from, Texas A&M and Maryland and, all these other places that the Steelers, draft guys from. But what are your reactions, Mark? Because there's a lot of vitriol. People wanted to bring in all these high profile candidates, and some people wanted Brandon Hunt more from the player side. How do you feel about this appointment?
We are a very successful team. We have not lost the Super Bowl like 0-3 Bungles. I'm picking on them today. I really am, because it's a lead up. This is the pre lead up to the Bengals week 1. But no, I'm very happy. I'm very happy with Omar Khan. He's been, 20 years? Like, I didn't know too much about the bloke from the last few years. You guys talk about all the numbers, what he does, and he's been with the organization for 20 odd years, mate. Like, it's a promotional step. He's been working towards that goal to get there. He was good enough for the job. Now he's got the job. Let's go out and win. The next step for me is really a playoff victory. We have to go out there, and everyone's counting us out this year, and we have to go out there and get a playoff victory. That is the next step. I will be really gutted if we make it this year and we lose, because then I'll go into freak out mode. You see me in freak out mode as a super fan? That's not a good time, because this is like, how do you have this team that we have on the defense we're talking about today, and a new offense, new era with no Big Ben, Kenny Pickett, or probably Mitchberg at QB1. Whole new, era.
It's Bisky business. It's Bisky business. It's not Mitchberg.
I'm just like, something has to. You have to go out there and win. It's just a point where you can't lose 5 in a row. Then we're in really rocky terms. But I think this season we are the biggest underdog I have seen in a long time, like a long time. And in my opinion, the team got better. got much better in the off season with all the
without a
free
doubt.
agents and the draft. And I think Big Ben held us back a little bit last year or 2 years. So I'm happy for the bloke 100%. I'm so happy for him and the other fellas coming in. And now maybe Cody White will be receiver number 1 because his dad's there. You know?
I don't know about that. I like Andy Weidel, though. I think that's going to be really important. I think Dan Colbert as well, from the development that they've had with him. I also think, it allows us to, keep Kevin Colbert on as an advisor. The other thing that struck me about it, and the final thing I'll say on it is, the thing that struck me about it was awesome was the fact that Omar Khan was there for Dan Rooney, and knows that like sort of prestige and that history with the Steelers as well. So I think that's really important. And that they've obviously not wanted to, go too far away from the house kind of thing. They've kept within earshot, in terms of people that know that culture and know that history. So I think that's really important. The other thing I wanted to say, and I'm wearing the salute to service, is Happy Memorial Day weekend to all of the Americans on this show. Mark and I live in Australia, obviously, so we celebrate this sort of type of occasion at different times of the year. But America and Australia are great allies in all things, so I think we're very thankful as well for that partnership. And there are a lot of people that from different allied countries have sacrificed their lives at times for our freedoms.
Tell you what, speaking of freedom, I went over there, did like the American tour in 2019. I think I told the story before. Went from like New York to Philadelphia to Washington to Gettysburg to Pittsburgh to Niagara Falls, right? And we took in a lot of history.
You would in that route. Like I've done Philadelphia and and Gettysburg and stuff like that, and Liberty Bell.
And one of the most moving things I ever saw was the tomb. I can't remember. I can't remember what it's called now.
The Tomb of the Unknown Soldier.
Yeah,
we have that here too. The War Memorial.
Really,
we got that too. Haven't you been the one at the War Memorial here?
When I was in kindergarten, mate. When I was like 6
the one
years
from
old.
Here. I mean, it's very hard to compare those two things, but the one here is pretty good.
I tell you what I like about it though is the guy does 22 steps either way, and if he can't stuff up, like he has to do it. They do it in shifts. They do it rain, hail, or shine. And he goes up there in 22. And in the back of your mind, you'd be thinking, don't stuff up. Don't stuff up. But he does it. He's just like I guess it's so militant. They're just like down the line. And no matter what happens, he has to be there. And they rotate the shifts. Oh, yeah, it's really good history that I learned over there too.
Oh, it's friggin' awesome. All right, well, let's get into the show. We know what it was like last week to get through those plays.
Yeah, true.
I listened back to the show and there was this moment and I remembered it. I'm thinking, we're cracking through the list. And then there's like 25 wide receivers. So, we've got, about 40 minutes here, 35 minutes to get through a few players. As per last week, we will start with in alphabetical order is how we do this. So, Mark, I'm going to kick it off. As everyone knows, it's star, solid, scrap metal. We can go pretty quick fire, but obviously, I love a bit of debate on some of these. The first one on our list is Lustin Jane.
Right. Oh boy, it's going to be hard in this cornerback room. Probably scrap, I'd say. What do you reckon?
I think he's scrapped too. I think he's scrapped that another team could mold, but he's a guy that they drafted. He's 6'2", out of Michigan State, plays more man. They've never been able to convert him across, to play in the more zone-heavy Steelers defense. Yeah, to me, he's scrap metal, and I think you cut. I think he's on the cut or the scrap heap. Maybe keep him on the practice squad, but I think another team would pick him up. Bye-bye, Justin Lane. There, we'll move on to Arthur Morlett out of Memphis. What do you think of Arthur Morlett? I'm interested actually on this.
How are you doing this alphabetical order? You started with
alphabetical order by position group.
Okay. I was like, what are you doing, man?
Because otherwise it's going to be back and forth everywhere. And it's nice to do it in context with the position.
Okay, Arthur Morlett. I think he's going to be solid because they gave him, a 2-year deal. So they have to have some faith in him, right? Would he not be a solid player this year? Maybe the third or fourth, maybe kind of guy. He actually played 35% of snaps last year that I didn't realize. He was on the field quite a lot.
Yeah, and he did stuff like, I think he was a lot more versatile in the secondary than what I think we thought. I thought we when Steelers got him, I think a lot of people assumed he'd be like a very cheap Mike Hilton kind of player, and he did a bit more than that in their defense. So I think he's solid, but I also think he's solid because he was scrap metal that we molded. Like
another year.
for me, we drafted a cornerback in the first 3 rounds or something like that, I wouldn't have an issue with cutting him. But I think he's a very handy and cheap, solid player that can do what you need to do.
I agree. Bring him on.
All right. How about James Pierre?
Well, this is one of cause for debate as well, isn't it? Will this guy even make the team this year with some of the additions? So at the moment, I think he's scrap. I think he could be at the door, and this is there could be other blokes that could come in and take his position.
I think he's scrap metal. I get that he was 6'2". I get that he showed a bit of promise at different points, but I just personally, I don't think he's going to develop into anything. He was right place, right time for the interception against the Broncos, but he's not. He's been shown to not stack up. And I also, people say, because he was injured, didn't run a 40, coming out of college, that he's quick, and he shows that on tape. I don't think he's quick. I don't see it. But anyway, so for me, he's definitely scrap metal and off to the junkyard. Bit aggressive this morning. Cameron Sutton. What do you think about Cameron Sutton? Is he star?
I think you know what I think he's a solid player. I think he's been solid in the past. It just depends where they're going to play him this year on the defense. Is he going to play a bit outside, or will he play the slot role or the nickel, or what? I don't know where he'll play exactly, but I think he's been a pretty solid Steeler. So I would say, give him the benefit of the doubt and say he's solid.
Okay. Yeah, I think like Sutton's got that sort of ceiling where you could see him encroaching on, star status. But obviously, like, I think we thought that last year, and then you saw people that were brought in, in Levi Wallace and the retention of Akello Witherspoon. So it kind of changes things, and they're the next 2 guys on the list. So from that perspective, I think you're right. I think he's a solid player. I think he was drafted in the 3rd round. He's having a solid 3rd round, sort of 3rd or 4th round career where you get a bit of play time. He's quite versatile. They've played him at different safety roles as well. Particularly did more deep safety stuff. And, he's a guy that's, becoming this regular roster.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He's had a good stint so far as the Steelers. And I think he could stick around for another year or 2 and see what happens. But I haven't seen him play too terrible. It depends. It depends how overall the defense plays as well. You can't put it all on one player, but I think in this defense this year, he could be solid.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, look, he's a great number 3 if that's who he is, right? Like he's, and even better in some teams, depending on the players as well. Like if he's number 4, if you're using, the safeties, but we'll get to that, later down this list. All right, how about Levi Wallace? Star, solid?
I actually think it's going to be a breath of fresh air, and I think he's going to be a star. I just get that feeling. Buffalo are crazy, man, out there with their interceptions and their secondary play. They're taught very well in the secondary. So, and some of the highlights I saw, he attacks the ball and he's ready to get after it and cause some turnovers. And last year we didn't have that. We only had, I think, 2 plus. So we need to get back the mentality of causing the pocket to collapse and get those turnovers. And he can this year. He can.
I agree. I think he's going to be a star. I don't think we're going to look like I'm not sure whether he's going to get more than 5 interceptions or something like that. I don't want to predict that sort of stuff, but he's going to help this team get back to lockdown stuff. And I don't think we've had that really since Steven Nelson left. And I think with what Levi Wallace can do in conjunction with the rest of guys, and we'll get to Akello Witherspoon and the safeties and what have you. I think that helps stem the loss of a guy like Joe Hayden. I think he will fit into that star category, at least within the cornerback room. But how about Akello Witherspoon?
Who's that guy? Wither. No, that's a joke. Do you know that joke, Matty?
That's a bad joke.
All right. Okay. I can't actually finish it because then it'll probably incite something that he didn't do. Okay. Akello Witherspoon, I'm going to say star as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get a feeling these two fellas, 1 and 2, I think are gonna help this defense out a lot.
Look, Akello, he's just got to show what he showed down the stretch through 10 to 12. I mean, obviously we want every game, but 10 to 12 games would be like ideal. But you know, if he can get 3 to 5 interceptions on the season, you know, only let in keep it to under a handful of touchdowns, it's going to be awesome. But I think he's got to watch penalties as well. I think that's something that's an area of his game that over a full season stretch might be a challenge for him to keep them down. All right. Well, how about you know, 7th round draft pick who's only 20. Oh, he's number 21. I was going to say he's only 21. I thought he was older than that. But he's 23 years old. Trey Norwood, 7th round draft pick from last year. This Swiss Army knife of this defense. The really solid player there. Where do you think Trey Norwood falls? You know, in this 3 category ranking.
You just gave it away. I think he's a solid player. I think he can turn into that. I think he had a good year last year at the very start and was so crazy. But I was like, well, this guy's awesome. He played the Bills game. He made like 3 big tackles that stopped a first down and then just fell away mid-season and didn't really seem that much. So I think he can be a solid player this year. Definitely going to be a big year too for Trey Norwood. Can't wait.
Yeah, I think he's going to be a solid player as well. I also don't want to overhype expectations of him. Let him keep developing. I think we got more than what we bargained for last year, kind of thing. Like, you know, it's kind of from that perspective. So, you know, it's like if anyone's sport that's, you know, played against, you know, older opposition or has played against, you know, gone into a new league, you know, or what have you, and done better than what's expected. I think that's kind of where he's sitting. So I think we need to temper expectations on him, but let him keep developing. And I think, you know, the versatility with him is just incredible. You know, he's actually, I knew that he was only about 6 foot, but when I looked this up as well, you know, he's 195 pounds. I thought he was a bit smaller than that. That's quite helpful. I think he's got a bit more weight there than what I anticipated. And as Brian Brown said, like the defense, he's just said in the live chat, the Steelers have just got to stay healthy. Like that's a really key part to all of this. All right. Well, the next guy is Carlins Platel, who's a rookie out of South Carolina, undrafted. They've got him as defensive back, 205 pounds, 6'1". I don't know much about him, but at that sort of height and weight, you're thinking he's obviously more going to be a secondary player in terms of, I should have said safety rather than a cornerback. I mean, I think we've got to stick to what our categories were last week. Surely this guy's only going to be scrap metal because we don't know what he's going to be.
I need to plead the fifth on this one. I don't know who this guy is, so I'm going to say scrap. But that's just saying because I don't know who the guy is. But if he makes a team and turns out to be week 1, takes on the Bengals and does a Trey Norwood against the Bills, bring it on. You know, we need more help the better. We want all these players to succeed, but I don't know who he is, so I'll say scrap.
Then we've got it. The next guy is Chris Steele, and we're gonna have to motor because we're not even at the defensive end.
Star, because his name's.
I think he's going to be an absolute solid player. I'm not being facetious on this. Like I literally think this guy's a solid player. Given the opportunity, he's someone that I love through the draft process. He's one of those guys on the list, you know, that when I do the War Room show, there's guys that I just never get time to do, but there's guys that I'm mock drafting every time I've got the receipts. Like. This is a guy I really like. I thought the team would pick him up in the 6th to get him undrafted. I think is tremendous. The guy can tackle. He hits you hard. You know, USC goes up against decent competition. I'd much rather watch this guy start or play significant snaps than I would James Pierre. And people can call me crazy. That's just what I think. So yeah. How about Lyndon Stevens? To me, this guy's scrap metal. He's been floating around the roster a couple of years. I think he's just a camp body, but that's me.
Yeah, he's practice guy as well. I think he's scrap. I'm not even sure if they can mold him into anything. Probably be on the practice squad, see what happens, and then next year or 2 cut. Like he's just thank you, mate, for your 2 or 3 years. See you later. I don't think he'll make the team. Let's put it that way.
All right. What about Tyson Alualu?
I reckon he gives. Okay, wait. What am I saying? Solid. I was going to say
star. Tyson Alualu. I get confused. But anyway, whatever.
Solid. We'll say solid player. Coming back from an injury, one year off. Yeah, let's say solid.
Yeah, I agree. I think it'd be great if he could have the sort of year he had before he got injured, but the guy's 35. We need to temper expectations. But if he can do 3/4 of that, I think that's a star for that position at that age, and so
Exactly, yeah.
he's going to be solid, right? All right. Well, how about one of my guys who I think is going to be the steal of the draft class for the Steelers, but DeMarvin Leal. What do you think of him?
I got a feeling he's going to be a star, man. I was looking at
22.
the rookie pictures of him. He's a big unit, eh? He's a massive dude. What's his number again? Is he wearing
98. I love it. I love
Yeah,
it.
he's
98.
wearing Vince,
But
mate.
he's like 21. We drafted him like 89th or
He's the
84th
perfect
overall.
player.
He was meant to be a top 10 player, or at the start of the draft process, or at least in the first round. This guy's he's gonna be really good. Like,
He's a perfect player for this defense and to give us a refresh and actually, let's go out and thump someone. I think even next year he might be the talk of the town. So if he has a good rookie year, he can. I see good things, even just from his working out. It just looks like he's so physical and he wants to be there and he's excited to be a Steeler. I'm saying star, but I'm happy with anything really, even if he fails a little bit. But next year, once he gets involved in the year 2, but this defense, anyone like we said, there's a top 5, top 10, maybe top 5 defense. Let's see what happens. I'm excited to see this guy play.
But he's the sort of guy, he's the injection of youth and talent and versatility that helps a top 10 or top 15 defense jump 5 spots to being top 10 if you're top 15 or top 5 if you're top 10. These are the sorts of players that are really important, particularly on a defensive line that struggled last year when we don't know about to it. And yeah, no, we do know that the numbers are given out, Snowman, but they're pretty much, from my understanding of what they were saying, they could be set. Yes, they can change, but I mean, there's not many other 90 numbers for him to get because we get to Isaiah Loudermilk, who's number 92. Mark, what are you thinking about Isaiah Loudermilk?
I reckon also he could be a solo player too, because I think he had a pretty good year last year for the snaps he played, and in the defense they were letting up too many yards in the run. But I got a feeling this could be a solid year for Loudermilk as well because this defense line needs to get better, and I think they all know that. Like you're not telling me that they're sitting around the camp meetings going, "Oh, we're going to do exactly the same thing we did last year, was let people run through us." No, they're not doing that. They'll be ready, mate. They'll be ready 110%. So I think solid. Cool. I could be biased.
I don't know. I just kept thinking about like trying to come up with milkshake, bring players down in the yard.
Yeah, where does that name come from? Loudermilk is just one of the best names. That's crazy.
I think he's gonna be a solid player. I think he's scrap metal that the Steelers have been molding for a while, but I think he fits in the solid camp. How about Henry Mondeau? I know, Jeffrey Benedict loves this guy, but surely this guy's up against it to make the roster.
He really is. And with the other players we just mentioned, it could be the reason why. Because I think he could be a solid player, but it could easily turn into scrap if the other 2 guys get more reps than him.
I'm just going to say, I've had a quick scroll through. There's a lot of defensive ends, defensive tackles, defensive line for the Steelers. This is nuts. All right. I think Henry Mondeau is a solid player if you've got him on the roster, as long as he's a depth piece. But yeah, I think for me, I think he's really valuable scrap metal that another team is going to, potentially want to pick up if he makes a practice squad. The next guy, there's a lot of debate around. We do have a lot of players to get through. I guess Mark, I think everyone knows the caveats is if he's in the team, is he not? Is he injured? Is he not? But Stephon Tuitt if he plays, do you think he's a star or do you think he's solid and he's going to have a down year off the back of the injury, assuming he comes back?
I think he can turn into a star, but he may be the first few games be a bit scrappy. But it's just the unknown. It's the ultimate unknown. We don't know if this guy's going to play or not. So
yeah,
I hope he does. I hope everything's fine and comes back and plays for the defense. I think the reason why he would come back and he is playing is his mate Cameron Hayward's there. They want to finish their career together.
Yeah.
They are like best buds. And he's
also got a bit of money on the contract to incentivize. I mean, please.
Yeah, I reckon he can start this year. I know he's going through a lot of stuff, but he's had time off to get the injury back together.
I know. And I everyone's mental health is different and people take things differently. But I remember someone in our live chat put this through, I think it was early in the season last year, and they were like, there are a lot of people that don't get paid millions of dollars to mourn, a loss of a family member.
It also
and I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying that it is kind of, yeah, I thought they made an interesting point about
this
that.
could also be a non-story that Pittsburgh fans
100%.
all over the world have made this up for what it is for so long now. And the Steelers probably know what they're doing with him. They're just like, this won't tell us because they're just like, we'll let him chill out.
But also,
Like,
if he's done some significant knee damage that he wants to come back from, are you going to telegraph that to the entire league? Hey, Stephon Tuitt's left knee is stuffed. His right knee, right? But like, you're just going to have guys like just go in and slam him there, like or chop block him and like I just anyway. Let's move on to Daniel Archibong, who you've had a laugh around with me before. I think he's scrap metal that maybe you mold him, but I can't sit here and say that guy's a solid player.
No, I think he'll be scrap as well. Cool name, but I just don't know where he would fit because there's so many players on the defensive line. He's probably behind Mondo, really, so scrap at the moment.
What about Chris Wormley? To me, that's a solid player. I mean, I think he had like 6 sacks last season or something, but like to me, he's a solid player. I don't think he's never going to be a star.
I agree.
I think he's surpassed expectations that we've all had.
I think he's in the second rotation of the defensive line, so I think he'll be a solid player as well this year.
Yeah, he had 7 sacks, 6 tackles for a loss.
Really, that's just so unnoticed. You don't really think about that guy, do you?
Well, I think Alex Highsmith only had 6 sacks, so that's actually pretty decent.
Yeah. Wow.
And I mean, 10 quarterback hits too. I think that's something that goes.
That is someone who I do not watch. I tell you, I just didn't really watch him last year. Was more focused on Hayward or TJ or someone.
You know what he did well last year? He did well. Tuitt's got rush moves and all the rest of it in the defensive line. But if you look at I think he had a sack in the Bills game. I can try and pull that up. But there's sacks and he had one in the Ravens game, I think. But when you look at what he did, last season, there are games where he basically, you could see Hayward putting pressure on one side and then he was making the most of the move on the other side. So he was kind of just really following through and doing his job. And I thought that made a tremendous difference. And I thought that showed up on tape a lot. But anyway, we'll keep cracking.
He's the perfect example of a solid player because he just showed me they had 7 sacks. That's what you need.
Yeah, 100%. No, he didn't have a sack against the Bills. He had sacks against... He had 1 against Cleveland, 2.5 against Baltimore. Yeah, one of those I remember. Hayward was pressuring on one side. It was 8 to 10 yards out from our end zone. And but anyway, as you said, he's a really solid example of a solid player.
Yeah, let's go.
Speaking of a new solid player to the Steelers, what about Montrevious Adams?
I kind of like what he did last year near the end too. I know he had to fill in the role and it was still pretty scratchy on the defensive line, but I think he can also be a solid player behind Alualu because we don't know if Alualu is going to start all the time, but I think there's a 1 rotation and there's a second rotation. He'll be a part of the second rotation, I reckon.
Yeah, me too.
Solid. Yeah, solid.
Oh, if he's like your third depth or your second depth, like from a nose tackle perspective, that's solid, man. All right, what about the Davis brothers? I'm combining them together so we can crack through this list because we're only on the letter D. And there's other defensive positions. But the Davis brothers, to me, they're still both scrap metal. I think one of them might make this practice squad. I can't see either of them making the 53 at this point in time, given the names we've talked about already. I don't know, Mark. What are your thoughts?
Maybe this year they'll fight each other. So they'll fight each other for the spot, and I think they'll be scrapped because look at the players we are mentioning in front. There's just sometimes on these rosters there's just no room. There's no room to be there. So I think they'll be scrapped and got to earn their spot. And it's just really hard to crack at least a top 6 that we've already mentioned.
The next guy on the list is definitely got some metal in him. He's one of the sons of Ironhead Hayward. Cameron Hayward. I feel dumb for even asking this question, Mark. Is Cameron Hayward a star, a solid player, or scrap metal?
He is the star and the leader of this defense right now, and his social media game is on fire. Like the video he made the other day was amazing. So star.
Yeah, I love Cameron Hayward. That's why I've got the Cameron Hayward signed football behind my head.
He's 22 years old and he looks about 50. So I always think he's 20 years old.
Yeah.
He's not. He's the same
I
age.
tell you what, Cameron Hayward's surely going to be a coach. Surely they bring Cameron Hayward in to be a coach on this team. Like,
Yeah, he's very vocal. Yeah, he was even coaching the fellas the other day doing the drills. You see that?
as if when he retires, he doesn't go in there and becomes a defensive line coach. Like,
He could
even
be
if he takes some time
if
off.
he stays with the Steelers, that would be fantastic.
Mate, this guy's saying like Cameron Hayward is like, to me, he's going to take the Joe Green path. He's going to have he's just going to be in there for everything. The next guy on the list is a guy called Trevor Mason, who's an undrafted rookie out of Arizona, defensive tackle, 6'6", 305 pounds. This is the sort of guy I could see make the practice squad that shows stuff in OTAs or training camp that not necessarily all of us see on tape, but the Steelers really like and look to try and develop. Or he could just be nothing. He's definitely a definition of scrap metal, but something tells me this guy, might be someone that we don't hear nothing of moving forward. But do you know anything about Trevor Mason?
Not overly. All I know is that he's a big unit, and the kind of like I hear 6'6", and I'm like, let's go. At least give him a chance to bank up that line. But he's the kind of guy that you watch in the preseason. If he does make through that far with the games and stuff like that, you go, oh, who's that guy? And you start to look at him. So I think he'll be on the practice squad, but I think he'll be scrapped because it's just too hard to break into this D line at the moment.
Yeah, 100%. Then we move on to Ulysses Gilbert III. Now, he's listed as an inside linebacker. He's the only listed inside linebacker. I think everyone else falls on the middle linebacker category. I think we've seen enough from Ulysses Gilbert at this point. We know when he plays, he's definitely a fast guy, particularly for a weight at 230. But this guy's not going to be a star. The best, the best ability is availability or whatever it is that Mike Tomlin says. This guy's struggled with that. Surely this is it. Like it's scrap time, as Sean Manahan says.
I agree.
And I think we said this last year. You could see him go to a different team, get picked up and play really well. But it's not happened at the Steelers at this point. So to me, he's scrap metal.
I agree with that 100%. Scrap for me for UG3.
I like that. The biggest piece of scrap metal on this roster right now is Marcus Allen. He's listed here as a linebacker. I do not like Marcus Allen. Everyone knows that. Waste of time. He's not going to be a good linebacker. He's not big enough. Yes, he can tackle, but he's not very fast. Get this guy off the roster. I know they gave him a new deal. Get him off the roster. Cut him. It doesn't make sense. That's all.
I reckon he's going to be solid just to piss you off.
Oh, no, not solid.
It's just,
the type of solid that comes out of one's behind when you go.
I love how much you dislike him. It's so great.
I dislike him. I think I dislike him more than I do the current Bungles. Really? I know that sounds crazy to say because I should support Steelers if they're wearing the jersey, but I don't support him.
Wow. Okay.
And if there's one person that shouldn't be TikToking, it's him.
Does he do
field? Like people are entitled to their own freedoms off the field, but like he needs to.
Does he do the old TikTok on the field? Does he? I didn't know that.
Yeah. How about another divisive or controversial player, I should say, rather than divisive, is Devin Bush. Is he going to be solid or is he going to be a star this season?
I think he has to be a star. Like, there's so much pressure on the guy, isn't there?
Yeah, 100%.
Oh, boy. Like, people are just ready to
He's got to be a star for most people to see him as being solid.
Yeah, exactly. Even if he does all these great things, I'll still be like, oh, he's terrible. The amount of times I go on the Facebook land, there's so many people just discounting him out, saying he's a bust. But he's coming back
though. I think it's gonna work in his favor.
Yeah, I think he has a good year this year. I think he's coming back from the injury and just was really, really slow last year. Couldn't cut in certain routes. Didn't want to be part of any tackles. I think bringing in Miles Jack also boosts him up, and I think Miles Jack will wear the green dot, and that will help him out too. So I think he can be a star, but in our eyes, a lot of Steelers fans think he's scrap already.
Yeah, I think he can be a star too, and he needs to be a star, as you rightly pointed out. You mentioned Miles Jack there, so I'm going to presume you think he's a star. I think he's going to be a star as well.
100%.
So we'll pivot to Alex Highsmith just because we've got to get through this list. This is a real challenge in about 45 minutes. Alex Highsmith, star or solid player? Because he had a softer second year, but a lot more was asked of him.
I don't think people realize how crazy this defense is going to be. Miles Jack, is going to a winning franchise. And now we have Brian Flores as their linebackers coach. Highsmith working with TJ Watt on the other side. What else do you need, people? This is going to be one of the best defenses, I think, can really help us to win a championship and really help us win playoff games. This is going to be honestly, these fellas, if they get some good leadership from Flores, who's really a head coach, he's going to be a star player. Like I would hope so. Now I've got my expectations too high, but what do you do? I'm a Steelers fan.
How about Buddy Johnson?
I like him too. I think
he's gonna be solid if he gets time.
Middle linebacker is one of my favorite positions because I used to play it on Madden. But I kind of like Buddy Johnson too because I think he's ready to go for year 2, and they'll probably give him more snaps as well. They might even interchange him with Bush if Bush isn't doing too well, so he might go in there. I think he can be solid.
Yeah, awesome. Then we go. I think I said he can be solid. Tyree Johnson. Now he's a guy that, like, going into last year, some people thought, I think, even drafted as high as the 3rd round. He went undrafted out of Texas A&M. I think that's a steal for the Steelers. Who knows? Hopefully he's a great, option of a practice squad guy. I think he's scrap metal, but he's someone that I'm high on in terms of, if given the chance and the right coaching and he takes the right attitude, I think he could be molded into something new.
Who? Yeah, I don't know who that is. So scrap for me. And Sean Manahan agrees with me.
Well, this guy, I don't know. This guy is TD Moultrie. Hopefully he stops the TDs. He's a linebacker, 253 pounds out of Auburn, 6'2". Looks like he might be a bit of a thumper. To me, that's some scrap metal there.
Touchdown Moultrie. We should get him on the show. I have no idea who that guy is either.
I wonder if he could change his name to have touchdown under Moultrie.
Yeah, if we pay him a contract and he becomes a 3rd member, under us. I don't know. I'm not too sure who this bloke is, but it's still. I think we need some depth on the outside line, like outside linebacker behind Highsmith and TJ. Because who really behind those guys? I don't really know who's going to fit in those roles. Maybe Derek, but give the guy a chance, I guess.
Then Mark Robinson, who we know the Steelers drafted in the 7th round. What was that pick, like 242 or something? 5'11", 235 pounds out of Mississippi. This is a guy that I think, again, perfect definition of some scrap metal. But he's some scrap metal that you're looking at going, I'm liking the look of this. The blow torches are out. We're starting to weld this thing into something good.
This dude's is a good example too of, like, he's just super fit that I've seen in some photos and some of the highlights. I've seen him in his tackling skills and stuff like that. He looks to me like a Steeler. So if he can go in there with I think a lot of this too, if Devin Bush struggles, they may change him for someone else. So you never know who's going to fill that void. Could be Marcus Allen. You don't know.
That's it. How about Delonte Scott out of SMU? I think he floated around the roster last year.
I think he played because he had to, because we had no one else in certain positions. I think there was a few times that he had to be on. I'm not even sure if he did anything. What was a game? Did he play versus the Chiefs? Did he struggle versus the Chiefs?
Did he play against the Chiefs? Really?
I'm not sure, but I thought that he was put in there because we had no one else. We had what's his name? Tuska.
Right.
Yeah, I think he was in there for. I saw a high number. Like, is he 48? What is he?
Yeah, he's 46, I think.
48
stats.
48.
He played.
He's 50. Yeah, we saw him there last year, I think for sure.
He did play. It just doesn't have. Sorry, I'm going to try and get these game logs up. It doesn't have the. Oh well, he played.
Yeah, I reckon he'll be scrap anyway.
Anyway, scrap. Yeah, agree.
Yeah.
What about Robert Spillane?
Well, I think he's the camp battle. If we want to talk about that, I think camp battle, it's him versus Buddy for that role behind Devin Bush. I think he can be solid, but we kind of know who Spillane is. We just know that he's a rundown thumper and smashes Derrick Henry in the face, and we love that. But he gets beat on coverage, quite easily sometimes. So we'll see if he can work with Miles Jack. But last year, what we saw with Schobert and Bush, those two fellas did not want to tackle at all. So I think he can be solid.
Awesome. Sorry, I don't know what happened there. There was a stall on my side. What about TJ Watt? Is this a scrap metal guy?
Star. This dude is breaking the sack record this year, and I reckon he'll break it.
I don't think he will.
No.
He's not
Oh,
gonna
okay.
break the sack
Sorry.
record.
No, the franchise one, the franchise sack record.
Oh, right.
Yeah, not the
The
season.
other one is I don't want to get expectations on the other one. Franchise, 100%. The other one,
Yeah, franchise. I reckon he breaks it the Saints game. I was like, what are you talking about? He's only 9 away. This TJ Ward is ready to win, and he kind of has to be. I think if we talk about Coach Tomlin not using their talent, I would be more upset not winning games with TJ Watt than I would be Antonio Brown. Because this guy is a freak.
100% agree.
He's a freak.
100% agree. Look, I'm wearing the number the shirt right now. That's all I can say. There's your favorite player that you have a jersey of, but he's actually listed as a long snapper, not a middle linebacker. So we're not going to talk about him. Sorry, Mark.
Solid. He's a solid.
Starts with Christian. Anyway, let's move on to Donovan Jeter. No, he's the only listed nose tackle on this roster. 6'3", 325 pounds, undrafted rookie out of Michigan.
Look, man, no idea who that is. Scrap. Prove it to me that this guy's good and go win. I don't know who he is.
That's it. I think someone put in the live chat, and there are other live chats. We'll get to those questions once we run through this roster or this list. But Sonia says, I think Myles Garrett is going to break it before TJ Watt. Both of them are going to be right there, though. I don't think so. I think to break that record, you need pass rush on both sides, and Clowney's not that guy. I see the point, and I'm not saying it's not impossible, but I'm not sure about that. Okay, let's move to where are we?
What have you done, Matty, mate?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you there? You lost your marbles. What's going on?
I don't know. My screen's just gone funny.
Do you want me to finish the list?
No, I'm back. I got it. Sorry about that to the listeners. Outside linebacker they've got listed here is Jannard Avery. What are your thoughts on him? I know you did a show on Steelers Australia around this. So
yeah, I think he can be a solid player. It's because we do need some depth behind TJ Watt and Highsmith because you hear that? No more injuries, but when they do happen, there's no one behind these two fellas. So
yeah, I think he was a solid player at the Eagles, right?
Eagles are rough mentality too. He's a hard hitting fella too, really physical. So I like these guys who they're bringing in. It just depends if we just need some good play out of behind TJ when they get, you know what I'm saying, a bit tired or they can't, And Sean Manahan brings it up there, the injury, right?
Yeah.
If you haven't got that, then we don't win the games because we haven't got the star player. But I think he can be solid.
Yeah, I think he'll be a solid player too. All right, what about Derek Tutska, whatever, however you want to pronounce his name?
He had a pretty good year, I think, near the end of the year as well. I think he struggled at the start, or he didn't. I think he got a few sacks last year too. I could see him being behind as also. I could see it being Jannard Avery, and then I can't pronounce his name every single time. Number 48, that will do. He'll be behind the Highsmith as well.
Yeah, I think he can be I think he's a piece of scrap metal that we're starting to really mold. Okay, just going through this list. I mean, you can almost say Punt is a defensive player. All right, now we get to the safeties. We have to run through these really quickly, or we're going to have a real problem here. That's the only position. I'm just checking that we've got left. All right, let's do quick fire. You ready, Mark? This is going to be rapid.
Yeah, right.
Terrell Edmonds, star or solid?
Oh, star, 100%.
Yeah, I think he'll star as well. Minka Fitzpatrick.
Star, 100%. This is a top 10 defense pushing 5. 100%.
Agree. Carl Joseph.
Ooh, solid, depending where they play him or if they play him.
I'm going to say solid to scrap because I think they've got other guys that I think they should focus on a bit more than him, but he's a really solid player for a practice squad. Otherwise, he's scrap. DeMonte, KZ.
Honestly, I don't know. I'm going to say scrap because I don't know who he is that well. He came from the Falcons.
I'm going to say solid. I'm going to say solid if they play him right. Miles Killebrew.
I think he can be solid because he does some really good things on special teams. 2 punt blocks last year. Come on, man.
Well, okay, this is.
Pretty
I just want to
good.
bring him up, like have a 30-second debate. Like, from my perspective with Miles Killebrew, he does great stuff on special teams, more than what Marcus Allen does. He is a good tackler. He had that punt block. He weighs 7 to 10 pounds more than, Marcus Allen. Like, to me, I'd rather have him in a versatile role than keep Marcus Allen on this roster. And that just typifies why Marcus Allen doesn't belong on the roster. All right, the last player is Donovan Steiner.
He's a tall
floated
fella, right?
around the team as well.
Yeah, I think he's the one who I think did well in preseason. I think he got the pick in preseason last year. He's a real tall fella, isn't he?
He's only 6'2".
Yeah. Well, I think he got the pick last year. I think he'll be scrapped a solid, probably the practice guy. But yeah, we'll see him in preseason this year again. We'll get all crazy about him, then he won't make the team. It's just sad is,
Well, that's the full list of Steelers defense by stars to scrap metal. I don't know how we got there. There were a couple of questions that I think we could go quick fire through if you want, Mark. Before
we'll see you guys. We'll see you guys in September. That's all we have.
Brian Brown. Do you guys think the guy from New England or Austin will be the kick return man? I think it depends, but I'd like to see Austin take a few as well and split it. But yeah, Gunnar Olszewski was brought in for a reason. But
exactly, they'll start him first, and then they'll give Austin a bit of a go too. But I wouldn't mind seeing both. You can put 2 back there.
I like that. Sean Manahan said hydrate with vodka before and during every game. That's his vodka drinker put in the live chat. Hydrate. I love that. I love that. It's great. And then there was another final question was from Dallas Quinley, and that was, what's the weakest link? Left tackle, right tackle, or left guard? I don't think it's left guard. I think it's tackle. I think we need I would prefer to have a better talented or experienced tackle on this roster than what we've got by some of the guys behind there. But Mark, do you have a view on this one? Because you were very critical of Kevin Dotson last week.
Yeah, but it's such a hard question. I think with knowing with the new offensive line, and we haven't really seen them play. I want to see 2 weeks of play before I answer that question. You know what I'm saying? But did you know that TJ Watt eats scrap metal?
He eats Browns, he eats Bengals,
he's going to go off this year, guys. Think back, we have a good defense this year. I'm so hyped about this. I'm more excited this year than any other year.
That's what you said last year.
I know, I say it every year, but look at the defense, man. Look at it. TJ Watt, Cameron Hayward, Alualu's back. Oh, Miles Jack in the middle. Highsmith year 3. Look at the defense. It's going to be amazing, dude. We have a chance to go out there and rock Joe Bungle. Ooh.
Well, Sean Manahan's on the train, Mark. Not in the luggage carriage. He's at the front. He's stoking the coals like I said I would a year ago. 35 sacks for TJ. Let's go.
2 a game?
Yeah.
Wow. Let's go. 35 sacks, and he probably still won't get
the sack record in the game? Isn't it 7? Imagine if TJ Watt could get like 7.
Yeah, if we I think didn't they get 7 versus Deshaun Watson one year?
No. I'm talking about TJ Watt getting 7
in a game.
A single game. Yeah.
They could get it, mate. They could just,
It was 14 sacks from the Philadelphia Eagles against the Giants.
He said he wants to do better. He said he hasn't reached his potential yet. He wants to do more than what he's done. And this is the point now
he's reached it either, to be honest.
He's older, more physical. He's going to be out there, knows the game better. He's more relaxed now, more confident. He's going to go out there. And that's why I think these Bengal fans, to end with this again, because they all think they're going to win this game, 1-0. But you're going against TJ Watt, and he changes the whole game. I'm sorry, he does.
I think Minka's going to get a pick 6, or at least a pick in that game.
Snowman knows it. 100%, man. This defense is going to be crazy, and I can't wait because the additions are just so awesome. And we haven't even talked about losing Joe Hayden.
That's it. But with that wraps up this week's Steelers Touch Down Under. I'm Matty Peverell, joined as always by my co-host Marky D. Mark.
Go Steelers.